Hello guys and welcome to this video. I've got this lovely Seiko Speedtimer to share with you today. Now the reason I'm making this video is partly because I've always wanted to check one of these watches out from Seiko and clearly you guys do too. Also, I have seen a slightly different dial version in person from one of my clients and I was immediately impressed by the quality of the watch overall. Not only the look, but the quality of the fit and finish is really nice for the price point. And thirdly, because people always ask me, can you make me a Daytona? Now, if you're new to the channel, have a look at my other videos because I generally modify Seiko watches into homages of other brands or custom designs and so on. You'll see them on my website as well, that's SVK Watches, or Instagram at Seiko Mods Dubai. But one common request is for the Daytona. You'll find lots of people selling Seiko Daytonas on Instagram and eBay and so on. But my key problem with those is that Seiko don't really make any of those parts. They might make the movement, but the dials are often fake and it looks just like a fake Rolex Daytona. Why bother doing that when you can just simply buy a good quality Seiko watch, a chronograph, with warranty, with everything you get from Seiko, wear it with pride and still get that Daytona look. So this is where the Speedtimer comes in, and you can get this in a bunch of different colors too. Just to remind you of what led me to this watch in the first place, and I'm sure what's led a lot of you to this watch, is the Rolex. Now, the overall look is similar at first glance. Of course, there's going to be differences. This cannot compare to the actual Rolex Daytona, but this is what I mean. A lot of people are asking for the Rolex style done in Seiko, and I'm often just referring them straight to this watch. I wouldn't do a modified version of the Daytona style because you're kind of making a fake of both watches. You're making a Seiko that doesn't exist, and you're making essentially a fake Rolex with a Seiko logo on it, which really confuses things even more. So let's have a look at this guy because I think you'll find, though it's a quartz watch, you'll be quite impressed with some of the features here. Firstly, I mentioned already, it is a quartz watch. For reference, this is the Seiko Prospects. It is the SSC813P1, and it's powered by the caliber V192. That's a solar powered movement. The subdials are actually, and you can see it quite well in these bright lights I've got, the subdials are actually little solar panels, and they power this watch for up to 6 months. So essentially you can, as long as it's fully charged, and I'll show you how to check it's fully charged in a minute. As long as it's fully charged, you can lock it away in a drawer, and 6 months later, it'll still keep good time. Being a quartz movement, it's also going to be very accurate compared to most other Seiko automatics, for example, and many other watches, many other mechanical watches, and so on. So I always recommend that you do have at least one quartz watch in your collection, so that it simply helps you set the time of all the others. Now this, I think the accuracy on it is stated at plus minus 15 seconds per month. Just to put that into perspective, a standard Seiko automatic movement has a tolerance of around 30 seconds per day. So it's not the most accurate watch in the world, but it's significantly more accurate than your average automatic. And the other nice thing, given that it's a chrono, the sort of awkward single tick of the seconds hand is a bit hidden on one of the subdials, and the main seconds hand, interestingly, when we run the chronograph, and let's zoom in just a little bit to see that a bit clearer, there is a little bit of a sweep there. It's not this awkward tick that you get with, for example, a Swatch, what is it called, the new Swatch Speedmaster that everyone is chasing at the moment. So, you know, they've tried to kind of hide the fact that it's a bit of a quartz movement, which is less desirable to some people, but I think as an everyday wearer, this is fantastic. Now on that dial, it's a nice sort of creamy white dial, really plain white, no nothing on there apart from the, of course, applied indices. We've got a minute track around the edge. We've got the tachometer bezel, so you could use this to figure out speeds and so on. It is racing inspired, of course, just like the Daytona was. And I quite like this little fuel gauge at the bottom. I didn't notice this before I've actually did this review, but it's got an empty and full, somewhat of a fuel gauge effect at the bottom, and I'll show you what that's for in a minute. Now, operation-wise, I've just started the chrono as expected. You can push to stop and then reset, and everything goes back to 0 in nice smooth action. All the markers line up. The seconds, for example, points directly to 12 straight away. I didn't have to adjust that, although I'm sure you can. The crown does nothing in the first position. In the closed position, in the first pulled position, we can cycle forward to change the date. So you can quick set the date on this without affecting the rest of the watch. You can see it's still running while I'm doing this. In the other direction, doesn't do anything. If you pull it all the way out, two things happen. Firstly, we can set the time as expected. And down here, notice that fuel gauge has come to life. So it's actually showing us that we are full of energy inside there. What's actually happening is it's transferring the solar power from the room. So even under these lights here, it's actually charging the watch. So you don't need to be outside all the time to charge this thing. There is even a list you can quickly find online. If you search for the caliber V192, there's a whole data sheet explaining how long it's going to take to charge and so on. But you will honestly never need to worry about charging this thing. Even just auxiliary light is going to help charge it. But it's really nice that you can tell at first glance, just by pulling the crown, how much fuel is in it, how much power is in it. There is a rechargeable battery inside. I don't expect you'll ever really need to change it. I've got another solar powered watch. You'll find a review on my channel as well. That's a Citizen Satellite Wave. I love that watch for its solar power eco drive movement. That's super accurate as well. And I'm yet to have to change it and any parts on it or service it or anything. So that has lasted at least 10 years. I would expect this to be up there as well. You can actually change the battery. It's a lithium-ion battery in it, which of course costs more than a regular battery, but you're not going to need to change it for maybe 5 or 10 years at least. So really impressive, simple movement, great for an everyday wearer. So pop it back in. Of course it's running, so we've got the seconds dial here. I think this is a 24-hour dial. So yeah, as we go to midday, we've got this pointing down to where it would be 12. And then at the top, of course, midnight is going to be 24. And then when you start the timer, notice that this turns into actually a minute counter, and it stops being the fuel gauge and it goes back to the minute counter, which is quite cool as well. So overall, look and feel of it, I believe it's an anodized aluminium bezel that they've gone for here. I don't believe it's ceramic. So this may scratch eventually, but again, it's not a super expensive watch. It's not something you could easily change, but then again, it's not a, it's not a deal breaker at this sort of level. The case itself is 39 in diameter. The thickness is 13.3. Lug to lug, so this way, is 45.5, and the lug width, distance between the lugs, is 20. So all of those little specs are on my website as well. I have got this particular one for sale and for pre-order. The price on this, so the standard retail price of this is somewhere in the region of $700. But you can get them for a lot less, surprisingly. I thought these would fly off the shelves when I saw it, and they've got a few limited colors and so on. This particular one I've got at around $520, but you can find them locally, perhaps for less. The Speedtimer range is generally quite rare in the UAE, so they do charge the retail prices here usually, but if you can import them, you can find them in other places. They're a great buy. So the other thing I noticed that, especially when I saw a watch, a different version of this watch on one of my clients' wrists, was the solid bracelet. So we've got solid end links, we've got a double push button milled clasp. You know, these are things that you don't always see on Seikos. Now, I think it still pins in the bracelet itself, but the weight of the watch, the weight of the bracelet really comes across as high quality, nice polishing on the side. The case is quite slab-sided, but I like the sharp edges they've kept along the top. When you feel this watch, you would think it might be a Tudor. If you honestly put one of these on with your eyes closed, you would almost feel like it was a Tudor that you were handling and not a Seiko, especially on the bracelet. That is one thing that Seiko often fails at, in my opinion, but with this line and some of their models, it seems to have become a winner. So just a quick wrist shot for you. I do have large wrists, so unfortunately, as much as I like this model, I think I might have to go for the larger size. It isn't too small, really. The camera does make it look a little bigger, but I do prefer a 42 and above, so this 39 doesn't really fit me very well. It is nice and slim, or as slim as it should be, I think, for this type of watch. Oh, I forgot to mention the crystal. It is a curved, so slightly domed sapphire crystal, which again isn't common on standard Seiko watch. So you've got nice proportions for the average wrist size. My wrist is 7 3/4 inches, by the way, so I can only really get away with big watches. But for the average person, this is a great buy from Seiko. Fantastic, and I couldn't really recommend it more, especially if you're looking for that Daytona look on a Seiko budget. Let's have a look at the Lume shot now. So I'm charging it up just with the UV light here. It's low light, it's not complete pitch black in this room, but you can see where the Lume is. First of all, with the torch, we've got it on all of the hands, a tiny amount on the second hand, and 12, 3, 6 and 9. The date is not loomed, that just appears as though it is because of the UV light. When you kill it, you do get a nice amount of lume, enough to read the dial clearly, but then again, being a white dial, it's going to be quite legible anyway. Overall, really happy with this, guys. Check it out. You can find it on my store. Please don't ask me to make Daytona mods, because I will just direct you to this watch. It's fantastic. Worth adding to anyone's collection, and hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks all, I'll see you next time.